Five Nights at Freddy's? In this economy? What is up, my creepy cronies? I am the Crow-lector, and today we are going to be taking a look at the new Jazwares Five Nights at Freddy's Mangle action figure. The Jazwares has acquired a couple big licenses of late, including Avatar: The Last Airbender, Stranger Things, and Five Nights at Freddy's. So it's an exciting time to be an action figure collecting nerd right now. Now, full disclosure, I don't really know a whole lot about FNAF. It's, of course, on my radar. I mean, it's inescapable at this point, so I do know the gist of the lore and the characters and all that. However, my sister's kiddo, my nibbling, is a big fan of the franchise and has filled me in on a lot of my questions. So I know about the murders, the spirits, all the theories, etc. Honestly, just seeing them excited about something gets me kind of excited for it too, you know? Not that it really took much convincing. You know I love me a good, spooky franchise. And I do, admittedly, really like the look of the characters as they get a little bit more scary. The withered animatronics, I really like the look of the nightmare ones. Those are super cool. So with as big a stable as the franchise has become in the horror genre, I figured, why not? Let's add some more video game rep to my horror shelf. Did I get this figure just to get some cool Uncle Brownie points? Well, my dear viewer, that is for me and only me to know. But by all means, if there's anything that I totally missed the mark on, get wrong, just bring shame to the fan base, please feel free to tell me in the comments below. I would love to learn more. I just need some good teachers first. Mangle, from what I understand, is from FNAF 2, along with the other toy animatronics. Admittedly, I'm not really a fan of the toy animatronics. Not the toys of the toy animatronics, those look fine. Just the designs themselves. I definitely like the darker, spookier looks. So the bright, bubbly ones just don't really do it for me, however murderous and uncanny they may be. That said, Mangle is one of those characters that I really don't know a lot about, but just looks, honestly, really cool. Just the idea of something that was continuously torn apart and put back together into some weird abomination thing is a super fun, super creepy idea, and they have the approval of my nibbling, so they have mine as well. As you can see, mine was rattling around in the packaging a bit. Seems like those darn kids got to Mangle one last time and tore them asunder, but hopefully it will be an easy fix. Now, Mangle is one that Funko never got around to in their Five Nights at Freddy's action figure line before, so I know a lot of folks were excited for this one to come out. It is quite a bit smaller than the Mangle I saw when I looked them up. Even the recent Funko Pop seems rather large. It even has a third leg versus the kind of 2-foot thing here, so part of me does wonder if this should have been a larger figure, but we'll see when we get into it. Now, I did pick this guy up from GameStop, where it ran about $12 in my neck of the woods. I have seen it go for about $10 or so elsewhere, at Target and such, so your mileage may vary. But GameStop so far is the only place I've seen the single-carded Mangle. He does come in a 4-pack with the others in the wave, but again, this is the only one currently that really interests me. But still, for the price, it's not too bad. And the packaging is super fun, I think. Really mimicking that HUD setup from the games with the monitors, the battery percentage. Really fun. It really does harken back to when I was growing up, and it feels like a lot of effort was put into the packaging as well. I love the idea of marketing the action feature as a jump scare feature. That's really cute as well. Some nice cross-sell of the rest of the line. another thing that I feel has really kind of been abandoned in this new age of more collector-focused figures. Even places like Funko have stopped putting the characters on the back of those pop boxes. That used to be one of my favorite things growing up, just staring at the other figures on the box for hours and making up my own adventures until I could actually get my greedy little hands on those things. Now, out of the package, there really isn't much to Mangle, but that is, of course, by design. Mangle is, from what I understand, just a big old jumbly mess of limbs, so it tracks. Now, this figure works similarly to Funko's figures in that it's really just a bunch of pegs and ball joints. I've seen a lot of horror stories of what do you call them? The little cups here kind of worn down with continuous use, so that is something I'll have to keep my eye on here as well. But let's get Mangle together and see what we got. And now our BAM, our Build-A-Mangle. I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to assemble Mangle per se. I've seen a couple different configurations, but I just followed what was on the back of the box. You can, of course, do it however you want. I will say, maybe just because the figure was new and these cups haven't really been worn down yet, it was a little bit tricky to get in the first time. Take that however you will, that's what she said, etc., etc. I didn't really want to risk anything breaking, so I just gave them a little hot water bath, and luckily they all popped right on. Sculpt-wise, there really isn't a whole lot. It's a very simple figure, with it primarily being the endoskeleton of the animatronic, but what we have is nice enough. It definitely gives the impression of long metal limbs, and the cute fox head is appropriately charming. You do get individual teeth as well, which is nice, especially for characters known to go chomp chomp. You get the little wires hanging out on both of the heads, like hair. Very fun touch. But with that, I guess we'll get right into articulation, since Mangle is mostly articulation. Like I said, it's all ball joints across the board except for the two head pieces, which are on swivels. And you get a decent amount of range, nothing too crazy. Because these sort of grippy sides to the cups, you can only move them side to side about, yeah. There are a mix of the non-articulated joints in there as well, just for stabilization. It would have been cool to have them all articulated, but I just know that thing would have been flopping around in no time, unless they made those joints super tight, which also isn't good. So I see why they went with what they did. It's a nice blend of static and posable joints, all the important parts you can move. Again, I am a little worried about these holding up over time. Even after a few little part swaps, I can see there being a tiny bit of those white stress marks. I don't know if those are just from the initial bending of the plastic, but I really don't want to jinx anything. But once you find a configuration you like, I'd probably recommend keeping Mangled in that configuration just to be safe. Now, as far as the action feature, the jump scare feature, I was honestly expecting something a little bit more intricate. Maybe even like a button that's spring activated, since, you have the spring locks in the game. Uh, see, I know some things. But no, instead, it's more of a button slash lever situation. You push the button to make the mouth open, and on this little guy, there's a lever you push down to make the mouth open, but that's it. There's not even a way to get the mouth to stay open like it is on the package, which is a bit of a bummer. And with the whole jump scare moniker, I was kind of expecting it to, you know, jump forward a bit or something. It's honestly even kind of a little hard to push. You kind of have to have another finger on the head as leverage to push, otherwise this white fox head's just going to pop right off. If you could like push it in and lock it somehow so the mouth stayed open, that would have been nice. I mean, these characters are kind of known for the mouth open jump scares, you know? Or honestly, just give us an articulated jaw that you can either close or open yourself. It's not the biggest deal, and luckily the action feature doesn't hinder the sculpt any, which is another pet peeve of mine, so there's no harm there. Now, being a cheaper toy, it's primarily made to look like metal. That means the bulk of it is gray plastic, which does, of course, look like plastic. So I slapped a bit of a wash on the figure just to help kind of dirty it up a bit, make it look like he had been torn apart and just kind of left sitting there. I did definitely go a little too heavy with it in spots, as you can tell. I'm not too experienced with washes just yet, especially on something as skinny as this. I personally don't really mind it. I think he probably would have a fair amount of dirt and rust in some places. And like I said, I tend to like the more dirty, torn up versions of these characters anyway. I know the toy animatronics are supposed to be newer and cleaner, so I may technically have absolutely ruined poor Mangle. If so, and you're cringing at home, I do apologize. I can always go back after this and try and even it out a little bit, but this was just a quick little slap-on job. All in all, Mangle is certainly not the most intricate or deluxe of figures, but honestly, for the price point, it's not bad. You could even get a second one of these guys to spruce him up a bit with some extra limbs and still pay less than a lot of other lines cost for one figure. We don't really see figures for around $10 or so anymore. We have been more frequently recently, which is nice, but still, most collector-focused lines are at least double that. So it is nice having representation without breaking the bank. As for the rest of the line, I will definitely keep my eye on it. I do like the look of those Endo series figures. I think that's a really cool gimmick, having the endoskeleton and the swappable parts. Again, feels very nostalgic for me to have those like 2-in-1 mix and match figures. And if I'm going to have any FNAF rep on the shelf, I might as well have the main iconic characters. I do really like the look of Springtrap as well, so I hope to get around to him. After that, I don't know. I'd probably be good with just the core cast of those earlier games. I would be all over the Nightmare versions, if and when they make those. Those are definitely my preferred versions, but the others will suffice in the meantime. For Mangle, just from my understanding of the character, I do think they're held back a little bit by the smaller size. It's fun to be able to swap parts however you like, so I'm sure we'll see many different Mangles out there. That said, the parts do pop off rather easily and don't always pop back on the easiest, which I can see being frustrating, especially for kids. The action feature is a bit lackluster as well, but if I'm being honest, I don't really care for action features anyway, so it's not too big a deal for moi. But for the price point, it is a fun figure that represents the character well enough and encourages play and imagination. If you go into it knowing it's going to be a simple figure, then I think you'll enjoy it too. I'm going to give Mangle a 5.5 out of 10, which I do feel is being a little bit generous. I may knock that down a half star if the joints do keep stressing over time, but for now, it's a bargain figure, yes, but a fun one at that. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I really do appreciate it. I will be back soon with more creepy Crow-lection content, but in the meantime, don't forget, stay spooky.